You're still watching Daybreak here on Arise News, and it's time for the press preview. A first look at what's on the front pages of the papers. We'll start with our sister publication, This Day newspaper. It has some interesting stories on its first page for us. That Tinubu character, competence will determine my cabinet makeup. With some riders there, he says his mind is set on governance, while other aggrieved candidates head to court. Declares new parties good showing, speaks the strength of the country's democracy. Let's look at some of the other stories. Polls, IG orders restriction of movement in 36 states. And Obi, my trust in INEC evaporated. I am confident in judiciary, says electoral body promised so much, couldn't deliver minimum. I'm best prepared to take Lagos to the next level. That's coming from Sowolu as he pleads with negotiants. Article to Tinubu begging for endorsement is act of desperation. And then just on the top mass there, presidency insists presidential election was free, fair. Two riders there confirms this day story that governors are desperate to win by all means. That's just one of the riders there.
A Punch newspaper this morning, leading headline, Nigeria needs competence, not national unity government. That's from Tinubu. Tinubu insists religion, ethnicity won't influence appointments. President-elect backs Supreme Court on Naira, says Atiku Obi's legal actions good for democracy. We're not going back on legal action. Presidential election created tension. That's from Labour Party and the NNPP. Those photos there, you have the officers and men of Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps during a deployment for the governorship and State House of Assembly elections that will take place tomorrow. More headlines above the nameplate of the Punch this morning. Polls, Lagos, Kano, Rivers governor candidates face tough battles. And meanwhile, threats ahead of Saturday's polls worrisome. That's from Abdul Salami.
The Guardian is leading with lockdown the governorship election. Lockdown on D-Day. No VIP escorts. IGP orders. A National Peace Committee sues for peaceful poll on Saturday. Nigeria's long, tortuous road to enthroning cashless transactions. That's a report from The Guardian. My confidence in INEC gone. Hope now on judiciary. That's Obi speaking. And civil society organizations submit petition to Buhari, demand probe of EFCC under Bauer.
The Nation newspaper. All right, we go to the foreign newspapers. Financial Times. Let's take the Financial Times. Banks scramble to reassure investors and regulators after flight of deposits.
This is The Guardian. It says, excoriating report condemns Met Police over racist, sexist culture.
And The Independent this morning. Leading headline, filmed the extraordinary moment a Russian jet hit a dump fuel on a U.S. drone. The footage of the collision over the Black Sea was released by the American military yesterday. And just below that, as NHS nurses and paramedics finally agree on a 5.2% pay deal, is the beginning of the end of the strikes. Is this the beginning of the end of the strikes?
We're asking a question there. The I paper just has that at its top story. NHS pay deal signals end to wave of public sector strikes. 2 UK dolphins found dead from bird flu.
All right, for the press preview, let's bring in Emmanuel Bello. Emmanuel, good morning. Thanks for joining us. Let's take a look at the leading story on This Day newspaper this morning, focusing on the president-elect Tinubu, who says, look, character, competence will determine my cabinet makeup. He also says his mind is set on governors while the other aggrieved candidates head to court. What are your thoughts on his comments? He's been making these comments. I remember there was one of these town hall meetings during campaign, and someone asked him, look, if you become president, what do we expect from your first 100 days? And he said, look, day one, I'm hitting the ground running. So what are your thoughts on all the comments he's been making as pertaining to his presidency? All right, I don't think we can hear Emmanuel. And while we try to get that fixed, let's discuss this amongst ourselves. Indy and Kenneth, the president-elect this is not the first time he's been making these comments. Look, I'm going to appoint competent people. I'm going to appoint people who have capacity. Religion, ethnicity has nothing to do with any of my appointments. I'm ready.
Emmanuel is back.
Emmanuel is back? Emmanuel, can you hear me?
I can hear you guys perfectly well.
Okay, we just couldn't hear you. All right. Continue about the president-elect.
Yes, I say he's actually shifting. We are seeing a shift from Tinubu, the candidate, to Tinubu, who is in a presidential mode, the president-elect. Some people will say president-elect, but whatever it is, he's trying to sound presidential. He's a man, like you say, Nkechi, he said he was going to hit the ground running. This is a departure from what we used to have, where the issues of cabinet will lag on and everything. And some people say that government, the Buhari government started on a very rough note when we had to wait for, I think, months on end before any form of cabinet was set in place. So Tinubu is talking about the timing, the right timing to set up a cabinet, and he's also talking about the quality of that cabinet. Two ingredients you actually need to have what will shape the presidency. So he's trying to cut off all these noises around his coming in and all of that. But I don't think this has drawn the voices. Even on the front page of newspapers today, you still have everybody talking about that election that brought him in. Maybe this is his own way of saying, look, I want to move on. The truth of the matter is that a lot of Nigerians have not come to grasp with, or there's no closure in the concern and the worries of the manner in which INEC conducted the election that brought him in. But what he's doing now, and he's trying to shift gears, he's trying to say, look, let's make progress in spite of all that's happening. The issue with that is that a lot of people are still talking about, even on the front page, like I say, Obi, for instance, is still talking about the fact that he has lost faith in INEC and that he has no faith in it. And it's still the INEC thing, because in 24 hours, Nkechi, we're facing another rounds of elections. And while Tinubu is talking about moving on, a lot of people are just about to start another journey with INEC from tomorrow. I'm talking of the governorship, House of Assembly race. So these are all coming to a head. But for Tinubu, this is an attempt to say, look, I have moved from the candidate. I'm now in a presidential mode, and I'm thinking of the kind of cabinet I'm going to form. It's going to be, bipartisan. I think he's saying that he won't be thinking of religion or ethnicity. He say, I'm going to set up a cabinet of competence and not of national unity.
And the police has ordered restrictions in 36 states ahead of the elections tomorrow on Saturday, Emmanuel. The Punch newspaper, earlier, our politics editor, Sumner Sambo, said he is expecting violence tomorrow. And there's another comment from a former military leader, General Abdul Salami, saying threats ahead of Saturday polls worrisome. We've heard representatives or supporters, prominent supporters of the governing APC, threatening a section of people in the state not to come out to vote, Emmanuel. What do you think will happen tomorrow? Should we trust the police and the security agencies to protect the people?
Well, it might not be too easy to play the prophet and predict how tomorrow is going to be. It could be peaceful, it could be what. Of course, what we can talk about is what the security agency are saying, that look, they are doing everything in their power to ensure that it's a violence-free election. Of course, in some of the stories, you even have the flashpoint states where some kind of violence, is expected. But they also, the Ghanaian newspaper has, a rundown of the efforts being made. The police saying that they're going to have more boots on ground and all of that. I think that is one concern. But the other big concern right now, as I speak to you, just asked to go to this election, is INEC itself. Its ability to not to repeat what happened in the presidential election. The many people I've spoken to seem to be centrally worried about the role of INEC. Will it do the right thing? The campaigns are worried that, look, they've campaigned enough. They seem to be, in one state that I'm closely monitoring, it's very clear where the electorate is tilting. But of course, there are still concerns that INEC will translate all of that translate all of that goodwill into results that reflect the will of the people. So there's that concern, and I can assure you, Kenny, that a lot of monitoring, all eyes are on INEC. Too many people keeping their eyes on this election. While of course the security, agency too are saying they are going to do their best. We must take the warnings of people like Absalami, former president, head of state, very, very important. And it's going to be not just a test, a very huge test for INEC, but also for the security agencies.
Guardian is saying that lockdown on D-Day, no VIP escorts. IGP is ordering this. Some very interesting riders there. It says National Peace Committee sues for peace tomorrow. NAS supplementary election holds in 15 states, and the cause is charging troops to be non-partisan. Whereas Yaga, it says cash crunch, others capable of derailing the poll, and APC SDP to appeal judgment on election transmission of result. Emmanuel.
Yeah, there's a lot there in on the front page of the Guardian, but you can sum it all up to say, look, tomorrow is going to be an interesting day. And if you see what Guardian is doing, it's also putting, it's also raising those security concerns. And yes, the serious concern, but people are also concerned about what INEC and INEC is going to perform. I think a lot of Nigerians are willing, as usual, to give INEC the benefit of the doubt, to give it, to actually repose their faith in it and say, look, we're giving you a second chance to see what you can do. So the agency itself had all this time to correct its ills. There was an extension of this election. So a lot of people are expecting a better kind of exercise tomorrow. Of course, those worries are still there, and the IGP is already discussing about the lockdown that will be imposed tomorrow, so that if you restrict movements, probably you'll be able to limit the threats and the concern. So again, of course, the call cannot be overstated that, look, these elections are not worth the life of anyone, and nobody should go out there and just get themselves killed or get themselves maimed or get themselves attacked just because they want to they want to push for a position. But you can also see the passion of people really wanting to actualize their dream, that, look, this is who we prefer. There's a sense of robbery, a sense of frustration when after you go cast your vote and this is the candidate you prefer, and then it doesn't go down well. It affects every sense of reasoning. You can, if you look at the polity now, the sense of frustration and people thinking that they are at the mercy of an umpire that probably will have taken sides and all of that. Those are the sort of things that lead to violence. People don't really just want to just go to the street and fight and do all of that. But when you push them to the point, and so the onus is on actually the burden to ensure that these elections are violent-free. It's on the umpire itself to ensure that, look, you don't play, hanky-panky, you don't do anything that will annoy the people unnecessarily and push them to the point of frustration, to them wanting to attack. Then that's on one hand. On the other hand is also the candidate themselves, with the sort of thing they are telling their supporters, and that's why I think the peace accord that they signed should be thrown to their faces basis now and say, look, you signed this, you are supposed to protect, ensure some, safe the sanctity of the polls itself. So yeah, the burden is also on the candidates and the kind of thing they tell their supporters to restrain them. So that's why it's good that they're reminded of the peace accord, because across the land, all of them signed some kind of pact, some kind of understanding that they will restrain their supporters, especially at the point where results are announced. That is another turning point in the entire exercise.
Well, thank you so much, Manuel Bello. That's the press preview. Let's hear your view on all the burning issues. Follow us on Twitter at Arise TV.